Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody's having a good weekend, staying healthy, staying strong. Welcome to this class. Today we are looking at IELTS vocabulary. So what kind of vocabulary to study, how to study vocabulary so that you can get those higher, even the band 9 scores. This is a members chat class. Of course, everybody is welcome to watch. There's a lot to learn. To become a member of our channel, just simply click the next button on the channel. This lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS success, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at ieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have lots and lots of materials to help you improve your communication and your English so that you can score better. Welcome, Janil. Hi, Rajveer. We will be using these websites in just a moment. This is our academic website here with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join the premium package. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are an official British Council IELTS registration center and certified British Council agents. This is our general IELTS website here, again with the green background, and you can click that big red button to join us there. Welcome, Firdavs. All right, everybody. So we are moving along nicely with our new schedule. If anybody has any questions, you can always contact me at adrian@aehelp.com. Schedule 90 minutes from now. Today we will have one as well. It will be speaking part 3. And then Sunday to Tuesday, we usually do not have classes. Our classes go from Wednesday to Saturday. So after today, the next class will be on the 12th, and that will be speaking part 1 for everybody. Hi, Kyber. Good to see a good number of members in the class already. All right. We're going to get right into some vocabulary learning. We haven't talked about this topic in a while, members, so I thought I would do a class. I think maybe some members know about this and some newer members probably don't, but I think it's a good time to go through this because vocabulary is fairly important, of course, for success on the IELTS exam. In the writing section, they do look at lexical resource. In the speaking section, they look at lexical resource. It's one of the marking categories. And lexical resource basically means let me ask you, anybody know what lexical resource means outside of just the idea of vocabulary? So when we say lexical resource and you're getting marked on lexical resource, what do they actually think about? So your IELTS speaking and writing section gets marked on what they call lexical resource. Okay, but what does that actually mean? I mean, why don't they just say something simple like vocabulary? Okay, so why do they use a quote unquote fancier term of lexical resource? What do you think that means? So when IELTS says, okay, we're marking you on your lexical resource, what does that mean? Okay. So Rajveer says they're marking you on phrases, collocations as well. Kyber says resource rich with vocabulary like idioms, phrasal verbs. Yeah, so definitely you're on the right track. So it's the ability of the candidate to use a variety of vocabulary tools like phrasal verbs, collocations, even slang, okay, in your speaking, slang, and also to be dynamic with your vocabulary, so you're able to paraphrase. This is what I keep, of course, reiterating in classes. Paraphrasing expressions, metaphors. Okay, so lots of different types of parts of the English language. Okay, so that's what they're looking for, and then of course, importantly, able to both and fluently. Okay, so using that lexical resource fluently. All right, that's really, really, really important. All right. Okay, so let's talk about daily words here a little bit. So I've got a couple of topics to go over with you today, nicely, step by step. Here's an interesting question that I think is important to think about. How many words do you think the average native English speaker uses on a daily basis? Okay, what would be your guess, members? So, what's the variety or the range of vocabulary that an average native speaker of English uses on a daily basis? Okay, what do you think that number is? All right, Janiel says 200 to 300 words. Kyber says 1,000 words. Ferdov says 10 to 12,000. Rodriguez says maybe around 500. Yeah, so according to people, linguists that have kind of measured this, they say about 500. So roughly 500. So it might be a little bit different for each different person, but their range is roughly about 500 words. Or so they say. But let's say it's maximum of 500 to 1,000, depending on the person, okay? So in some ways, it's not a lot, okay? Now, Ferdov says 10 to 12,000. That's roughly the total vocabulary bank of the average person is 10 to 12,000. Now, of course, the English dictionary has a lot more words than that. It's the biggest vocabulary base in the world now is the English dictionary. Anybody know how many words there are in English today according to the dictionary? Just fun. And guess big, okay? All right. Oh, it's good to see you in the class as well. Haven't seen you in a long time. That's great. Janil says 1,000,000. Rajveer says about 1,000,000. Yeah, actually, what I've heard, Janil, Rajveer, so it's a good guess. You guessed big. That's great. What I've heard is it's closer to 1.5 million. You might want to do your research on this, but I've heard it's closer to 1.5 million if we count all of the technical words. Okay, so why am I asking these questions? And what's my point here? My point is that there aren't really any people in the world today that know all of the English language, not even close, okay? So learning English is a lifelong process, and native speakers come across new words all the time and have to learn new words all the time as well. Okay. So if you think about the fact that we really only use 500 to 1,000 words a day, and there's 1.5 million words in the English language, there's a really big gap between the actual use of English and the total amount of English that's out there. So, of course, a good question that people should ask is, well, what should I learn? So, what English vocabulary should I learn? And that leads me to my next topic here, which is choosing words. So choosing the words to learn. Okay, all right. Otis, I don't actually think that 1.5 million includes the phrases and idioms, so those are separate. That would be even more because those are just paraphrases. It's actually, Otis, the 1.5 million is 1.5 million unique words, okay? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of those words, Otis, we have to keep in mind for that 1.5 million, they are technical words. So we live in the information age, and over the last 20 or 30 years, we have produced a lot of new science, a lot of new information, whether it's technology like the internet, computer science, or medicine, biology, and all of these fields are producing these words in the English language because it is the global language, it's the language of science, business, so those are all being produced in English. So the technical words do make up a big piece of that 1.5 million. But of course, it's for choosing words, it's important to know words that are in your field. So if you're studying engineering, you have to learn words that are part of engineering, okay? So let's talk about choosing words. So how many words should you learn? What should you learn before the IELTS? What do you think? Okay, so let me start it with a question here again. Ideally, you want to start studying for the IELTS at least 3 months before your exam. Okay, keep this in mind. So you should start to study for IELTS 90 days or more before your exam. How many words do you think you should learn each day? Okay. So how many new words should you target learning each day? What do you think? What's a realistic number? So in our adult minds, what would be a realistic number? Okay. Rajveer says 5 to 7 words. Bahrat says 5 to 10. Khyber says 3 to 5. Okay. I would say you should shoot for about 5. Okay. So you should focus on learning 5 new words, okay, per day, meaning both understanding and using these words. All right. Now, if you think about it, that means that if you actually do start 90 days before your IELTS exam, as I'm suggesting here, and you're learning 5 new words, that means you're going to effectively learn about 450 new words adding to your vocabulary before your exam. So 90 days times 5 words means for your exam 450 new words. Okay, that's pretty good. So, of course, you already have base English. You're already at an intermediate level. So this is just expanding your vocabulary. And as long as you can expand your vocabulary by these 450 words, you're definitely on the right track to really improve your scores for all sections of the exam. Okay. Kyber says if you have time 7 to 8, 10 to 100, I say just 5. So if you've got that time, if you got the 90 days or 100 days before your exam, 5 words is a good number. 5 words, it's challenging with busy schedules to learn more than 5 words well. Okay. All right. Janelle says, plus the 1 to 200 we already know. I think, Janelle, that a lot of the students, a lot of our members actually know more than 200. So you probably know even 1,000. Okay. So think about it this way. I'll give you a little bit more information here, Janelle. For a band 8 to 9 on IELTS, you should have a total vocabulary of about 2,000 plus words. Okay, so I would say 2,000, 2,500 words. Okay, that's a good starting point for those higher band scores. So you're basically adding another 20 to 30% of words to your vocabulary base. Okay, all right. So let's keep talking a little bit more about choosing words. So what words should we choose? So what words should I learn for the IELTS? That's a great question. We get that question often. I'm going to show you on our website where you can find vocabulary, and anybody can do this. So this is aehelp.com for the academic IELTS, but you'll find this on the general IELTS as well. And then you log into your My Student account. And when you're in your My Student account, in the top right, if you're using a computer on your phone, it'll just be at the top. You'll find this blog. Okay. And in our blogs, you find a lot of different topics. We have several hundred articles now in the blogs. And this is kind of new, so even for our older members, you might not have seen this. We have these categories in the blog. I know it's a little bit bright, so bear with me here. IELTS Focus, IELTS Information, Learning, Materials, Preparation. And in here, we actually have, of course, it's alphabetical, IELTS vocabulary. And now most of these are organized, so you'll see that there's 11 uncategorized, but we have lots here that are organized. So click on that IELTS vocabulary. I'm going to darken the screen a little bit so you can see this clearer. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let's do that. All right. Okay, yeah, Prathamesh, I got you. I'm on it. So let me darken this up a bit. Okay. All right, so that's better. All right, so here you have some different articles. Okay, you have IELTS linking words, connectives, and there are some explanations there on how to use them as well. Okay, and then there's this one here, which is IELTS vocabulary. All right. On the website, and click on read more. And then here we have a really nice blog article about 570 words. Okay, so here you can see that. So here is a list of 570 words often used in English writing. Okay, so a couple of very clever, I think, linguists, professors in New Zealand decided to statistically analyze which words are the most commonly used in English writing, especially for academic purposes. Okay. Yeah, Jacob, you can use neutral words for sure. There's no rule of what you cannot use, Jacob. In the academic exam, you should not use contractions, but we can talk more about that later. So I'm going to stay focused here on this. I'll give you a chance to ask me some questions later, Jacob. So keep that in mind, okay? All right. So in this blog article, we actually do go through the steps of what you need to do for effective vocabulary learning. I'm going to talk to you about that in the lesson today, okay? You can review this later on the website at aehelp.com or gieltshelp.com, okay? All right, so here we have this list. It's called Avril Coxhead's High Incidence Academic Word List. You can find this online. It is open source. This is the name of the professor or one of the professors that worked on this project. And then you're going to see these numbers here, like number 1, okay? The number 1 means that these are the most common words used, especially in academic literature in the English language. And they're alphabetical. So you can see analyze, analysis, approach, area, assess, assume, authority. And then this continues, and we have all 570. You see that here we have a number 2. So these are of second highest frequency. Okay, and then it goes all the way so it goes all the way to 10. Now 10 doesn't mean that these words are not used, like adjacent, albeit, assemble, collapse, colleague, compile. These words are also used. They're quite frequent. They're just not as frequent as number 1. Okay, they're 10 compared to that, but they're still very frequent. So you should make sure that you can learn all of these 570 words. If you can learn all 570 before your IELTS exam, that would be absolutely great. Okay. And of course, you probably already know many of them. Like, let's say the word colleague. Which of course is a synonym for coworker. So if you already know the word colleague and you're sure that you can use it effectively, okay, knowing and really knowing are 2 different ideas. So if you're like, oh yeah, colleague, I've heard of that word before, I think it means coworker. Well, that doesn't mean that you perfectly know it, so you should work on it to make sure that you can use it as well. Okay, again, if you know the word, cross it out. If you kind of know the word, then practice with it. If you don't know the word, for sure try to learn it. Okay. Now, you don't have to stick to this list. Of course, you can add to it. You can add phrasal verbs, idioms as you go along as well. Okay. But the idea is to choose 5 words from this list each day. Okay. So I'm going to just choose a couple randomly. Okay, there's a nice one. I'm gonna choose a number 10 word here. I'm gonna choose encounter. So right now, I'm gonna make our lives brighter here in a moment. Don't worry about it. Okay, this is just for an example. So I'm gonna use the word encounter. All right. Let me choose another one. When you're choosing these, it is a good idea to kind of start from the top. And I do not recommend choosing in an alphabetical order. For the brain, it's not the best way to be alphabetical. Okay. Let's go with derive. Okay. So that's a level 1 word. I would start from the top here. Okay, so let's go with derive. All right, and I'm going to pick one more, maybe from a level 2 category. So let's go with institute. Okay, sure. So we'll pick those 3 words and I'll make our lives brighter here so you can see everything nice and clear. All right, there I am, back again. Not just my silhouette. Okay, cool. All right. So you know that vocabulary list is there. Check that out later. Go through it. Start picking out your words. And then you want to do, of course, 5 each day. We're going to do a few together today, and I'm going to show you the correct strategy for what you should do. Okay? So first of all, for this correct strategy, very importantly, the first step is create an easily accessible Word notepad and audio file on your mobile phone. Okay. When I this vocabulary lesson to IELTS students many years ago, I said to have kind of a paper and pencil that you can have in your pocket, and I think that's still a good idea, but we have technology now. Most of us carry around our mobile phones with us all the time, every day. So what you want to have is you want to have a notepad and an audio file on your home screen or one of your main screens on your mobile phone so that you can access that at any time, anywhere. Is that clear, members? So it's very important that this vocabulary that you're learning is in front of you. You don't have to open a computer. You don't have to be at home to see it. You don't have to dig through your phone to be reminded that you have it. It has to be in front of you, accessed daily. Okay, this has to be routine. This is very important. It's not going to work if you're not doing that. Is that clear? Okay, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up, so that's good. So when you create the audio file, when you create the notepad, put it on the main screen of your phone. So it's right there all the time, okay? Kashirsha says, I do it all the time. All right, Kashirsha, you're on the right track, okay? So not hidden in some folder of a folder of a folder. That's not going to work, okay? All right, and then your first step is what I just showed you here after that, or your next step, I should say, is pick 5 words, okay? So, number 2, pick 5 words. From the list. Okay. All right. So I picked a few here to show you today on what you need to do, okay? Now, when you pick a word, okay, the first step is to define the word, okay? So after you picked the 5 words, then the next step, I should say, is to define the word, okay? So begin with a clear definition. Okay, so here we go. Encounter. What does encounter mean? So first of all, we want to figure out that it's a verb. Okay. And it's a regular verb. So encountered. And what does it mean? Okay, Osman says to meet or come across. So come across is the phrasal verb version of it. Okay. And what does it actually mean? To meet someone accidentally. Very good, Prathamesh. Yeah. So encounter means to meet a someone or something. Okay, you can encounter an object as well. Meet someone, something accidentally. Okay. So that is the definition. All right. B, so once you have the definition for the word, the next step, of course, is to write and record an example sentence with this word. Okay? Pay attention to make the sentence A, complex, and B, include yourself, and C, unique. Okay? Funny, sad, scary. Okay? So it's really, really important when you're learning vocabulary that you create sentences which are complex, which include yourself, which are unique, funny, or sad. That way, your brain will hold on to that information and will be able to recall that information much better than if you're using some kind of just a common everyday sentence, okay? So Khalid's saying include yourself in the example, absolutely. Okay, so let me show you what is not effective, okay? Or I should say ineffective, right? Ineffective example for encounter would be something like John encountered. John encountered his friend Sarah at the store. Okay? So this would be a highly ineffective way to learn this vocabulary, and unfortunately this is what you get in a lot of vocabulary textbooks. That's why I'm not too impressed with a lot of the vocabulary textbooks out there, because they give you these really basic examples and you practice with them, and then students are surprised why they don't really learn the vocabulary after they finish the exercises in the book. And it's because this is so boring and it's irrelevant in our lives. It's not connected with our own experiences or ideas. So John encountered his friend Sarah at the store is just not a good way to learn vocabulary. Okay, so this is not effective. Okay, this is ineffective learning. Okay, so rather, you want something like I encountered a little green alien while I was traveling to the moon, who helped me with directions. Okay? So this would be an effective sentence. Why? Because here I'm using the word in my own context. So I referring to myself, okay? So I'm included. Immediately my brain catches this information because it says, well, what? I'm going to the moon? Let's hold on to that information, okay? A little green alien. So not just some person like Sarah, but a little alien like Yoda, okay? And then complex sentence. So while I was traveling to the moon, so during that time that I was going to the moon, who helped me with directions? Maybe I was a little bit lost. Where's the moon? Okay, so it's kind of fun, funny. I'm able to hold on to this information. Okay, all right. I can see members are already practicing for this kind of strategy, which is great. Jainil says, I encountered my IELTS teacher, Mr. Adrian, at the mall, which is next to my home, when I was shopping for clothes there. Yeah, Jainil, it's not bad. If I wanted to make that even better, Jainil, I would make it not the mall, but something a little bit more interesting. So I encountered my IELTS teacher, Mr. Adrian, at Disneyland while I was on the Mickey Mouse roller coaster. That would be even more kind of catchy. So you want to make them as catchy as possible. Okay. Kyber says, we've encountered an enormous problem which will lead to a lot of difficulties in our company. Not bad, Kyber. I don't think it's specific enough. So it's good that you're practicing these examples because I can give you some feedback. Kyber, I would make that more specific so that your brain can catch it better. So I would write something like, we encountered an enormous problem at the company whereby our boss could not fit through the front door because he was so fat. Okay, so something like that. Like, what was the problem? The problem was that the door was for the front of the building. It was too small for the boss. The boss was too fat. So that's the problem that you encountered. So the funnier, the more unique, the stranger that you make it, the better your brain will function to hold that vocabulary. Is that clear? So you really want to be creative, and this kind of creativity will help you in other parts of the IELTS as well. Okay. Bhagrat says the Covaxin virus encountered to Delhi government after central meeting of CMS with PM Modi. That doesn't include you, Bhagrat. The virus encountering something is a little bit awkward. It's humans that encounter, usually. Okay, so you're not using it correctly in that context, Bhagrat. So try a different sentence or try to write that differently. It's an incorrect use of the word. Okay. Rashika, again, be very specific. So after 500 years, I encountered my childhood friend at the dentist office. So try to be a little bit. So notice how Jainil also said at the mall, and Rashika, you're also writing at the mall. So obviously the mall is not really a unique context for the word encounter. Okay, so be more creative. Okay, be more creative. Rajveer says, I encountered a Bengal tiger on my way to Jim Corbett National Park in 2018, and it chased me for 3 hours. Okay, so Rajveer, good start. I like it, encountering a Bengal tiger from yesterday's lesson as well, right? I would make it more visual, make it more unique, and it chased me for 3 hours. Okay, the goal is to basically trick your brain into really remembering the information. Okay, so do you see, Rajveer, why I put this chased me for 3 hours at the end of the sentence? Because encountering the tiger is like, oh, there it is. It's a good start. But if we can make it like, oh no, now it's chasing me, that's going to be a much more significant piece of information for you emotionally, and your brain will hold on to it. Okay. Amanda says, some people you encountered are just acquaintances, not friends. Okay, Amanda, that is not the kind of sentence that you want to write. Your brain will forget those kinds of sentences. It's not directly related to you. So you're not saying I encounter people or my best friend Jim encounters people. It's not unique. It's not interesting. So Amanda, that's the exact kind of sentence that you want to avoid writing. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of sentences, members. However, honest opinion, you do need to work on making the sentences personal, unique, and interesting. Okay. So make them complex. Okay, use however, when, since, so complex sentences using subordinating conjunctions. Make sure to include yourself. So I, me, my friend, my brother. Okay, and make them unique and interesting. It's very, very important. Keep practicing that. We'll do that with the next couple of words here. Okay. All right. So let's go with the word derive. We'll keep practicing here for these words, and I'm going to show you a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more here. So derive. Derive is a verb. Again. Okay. What is the meaning of derive? Anybody know what that is before I give it to you? Yeah, exactly, Rajveer. Sense of fear, and fear is a great motivator to remember. Okay. Bakrat says to formulate. That's a synonym, Bakrat. So when you're giving the definition, you don't want to give a synonym, but you actually want to define it. Okay. Kyber says to obtain something from. Okay. To come up from somewhere. Okay, that's a good start. Rajveer says to obtain or get something. Yeah. Prathamesh says to find something. Ois says it means the origin, sorry, I should say, of something. Yeah, Rashika, that's the best one so far, to obtain from a source. Yeah. To get. Yeah, it's kind of tricky, so you want to look around. This is an important step, the definition. You need to have a clear idea. Okay, so to get or obtain. A piece or an idea from some source. Okay. All right, and then we want that example sentence. So give me an example sentence with the word derive that includes you, that is a complex sentence, and that is interesting in some way. Okay, I'm going to write an example sentence as well, and then we will compare. All right. Okay. So that's my example sentence, and it's quite visual. You'll also notice that I'm making connections among my example sentences here for my quote-unquote daily vocabulary. So a little green alien here helped me with directions to get to the moon that I encountered, of course. Okay. And then here, you can have fun with daily vocabulary. Learning should not have to be painful. Have fun with it, students, okay? So I derived from the blank stare of my IELTS speaking examiner that he was not at all interested in what I had to say about the elephants living on the moon. Okay, that's kind of a funny context. So derive means that I was able to obtain this information from the look on my IELTS speaking examiner. Okay. All right. Let's see. Ois says, I derived my business idea from my friend Khalid. Okay, Ois, keep going with that. So far you have just a simple sentence, Ois. You want to make it a complex sentence and make it even more interesting. So what was the business idea? How were you able to derive it from your friend Khalid? Why did you derive it? So think about these questions. Keep going with it, Ois. I'd like to see that same answer in the chat, but expanded with a complex sentence. Okay. All right, Gus says, I derived a bad score on the IELTS exam, and that made me feel sad. All right. No, it doesn't mean, so good try, Gus, but you cannot use derive in that way. In that way, you just simply got a bad score. Derive is not a synonym of get or obtain. It means to get from a source. So you can't use it like that, Gus. You could say, Gus, I derived from my bad score on the IELTS exam that I need to spend at least another 3 months, 5 hours a day, studying and burning the midnight oil so that I can improve by a couple of bands. Okay, so that you can say. So I derived from my bad score that I need to do more, and then continue. Okay. All right. Okay, Prathamesh says, I derived a new recipe while making a Napolitan pizza. It didn't look very good, however. It was really tasty. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, so Prathamesh, I derived a new recipe while making Napolitan pizza, which didn't look very good. However, it was really tasty. So a little bit of a grammar correction in the end. It's a good way to practice these complex compound sentences as well. That's a good idea. So that's a good sentence, Prathamesh. I can picture that, and that's quite interesting. Okay. Ferdab says, I derived a lot of knowledge about green aliens from my online classes last week. Okay, for Dobbs, it's a good start. I put in the word green aliens to make it a little bit more interesting. So for Dobbs, make it interesting, okay? So that your brain can really hold on to that. Then green aliens will suddenly trigger 100 different words, okay? So that's just an example. All right, good. So here we have the word institute. I'm going to leave that one for you. You can practice that at home. I want to use our last 5 minutes of class to talk a little bit about reviewing vocabulary. And because this is really important, and this is where a lot of students make a big mistake, okay? So what often happens is learners will pick up a few new words and then they'll kind of forget about them until much later when they have to use them, and they're like, oh yeah, what was that word? Which is not ideal, okay? What you want instead is you want to review these words. So ideally, you review your new words after 3 to 5 days of having learned them. And then again a month later. Okay? To do this, have a checklist, such as underline the words after review. Okay? So I'll show you what I mean. Say that that I did my vocabulary learning for encounter on last, so today is Saturday, let's say on Wednesday, for example. Okay, so I learned the word encounter on Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, I know I have to spend a couple of minutes today reviewing my words. So I open up that text document or that notepad document on my phone, and then I go, okay, I'm reviewing this word, so I'm going to underline it. Okay, so by having underlined it, I know that I'm now reviewing, and I have reviewed 3 or 4 days after. And then a month later, when I come back, maybe I will line from it. Okay, or removing the underline, I put the word into italics like this. It's kind of hard to see the italics for you, but or bold it. Okay, so just that little trick, just to kind of, it's like a check box, like check, I've taken care of that word. And then I review it. And very importantly, if I don't remember the definition, then I would read the definition again. But if I do, then I just read the example sentence. I encountered a little green alien while I was traveling to the moon who helped me with directions. Okay, good. So I reviewed that. And then I review the word derive. So I underline that. Okay. I derived from the blank stare of my IELTS speaking examiner that he was not at all interested in what I had to say about the elephants on living on the moon. Okay, great. So I now reviewed that as well. Is this true review? So-so. Okay. What I want to do now during my review, and this is a very important step, is combine them. Okay. So into so combine two vocabulary in a new example sentence for your review 3 days later, 2 weeks later. Okay. So here I'm going to do encounter plus derive. Okay. In my example. Now, of course, this example has to be complex. It has to include you and interesting, just like before. Okay. That's always important. Okay. So here's my example sentence. Okay, so I'm sticking with my green aliens today. Encounter and derive. I derived from my encounter with the green alien that there are intelligent life not only on my way to the moon, but also on Jupiter. Okay, so that's a combination of these two words, and that's a great way to both strengthen the understanding of those words and also strengthen your ability to use those words in your speaking and in your writing on your IELTS exam. Does that make sense? Okay, so very important step. And this is the one where a lot of students forget to do it, they don't do it, and then their learning is only 30%. Okay, this is what makes your learning of these words 100%. So make sure you get into a routine to do this. Does everybody follow me on that? So every 3 days, 4 days, if you miss a day, it's okay, make it up, right? So go back, review a couple of the words that you wrote down, and then combine two of them into a new, interesting, complex, unique sentence that includes you. Okay? So I derived from my encounter. And once I do this, I guarantee you that you will have a much better chance of remembering both derived and encounter and using them in context quickly. Okay? The brain is an amazing machine when it comes to this kind of integrative learning. Okay? All right. So this is a very important step for effective vocabulary learning. All right. Okay. So Janiel says this process teaches vocabulary, grammar, improving writing and speaking skills as well. Yeah, absolutely, Janiel. It's very integrated. Adadolapo Ogunsus, welcome to our group of members. Happy to have you on board. Send me an email so I can hook you up with those exclusive videos. Students, you've done a great job. I won't have too much time to look at examples of this. I see Prathamesh wrote, I encountered my old friend in Goa while I was on a holiday, and we derived a new game to play while on the beach. It was really great. Okay, derived is not used perfectly there, Prathamesh, so you want to reconsider that. All right, everyone. Again, the vocabulary is on the website, so check it out there. Okay, it's in the blogs. You can easily find it. It's categorized. So go to aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. I highly recommend joining our premium packages there. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access, so strongly recommend. All you need to do is click those big red buttons to join. That's it for now. I will be back, everyone, in about 30 minutes with speaking part 3, which will be a continuation from yesterday's speaking part 2. So make sure you come back and hang out with me. Natalie, I'm glad you enjoyed the class. See you soon, everyone. Bye for now.